All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. As everyone is aware, tomorrow the Public Safety Committee is going to have an informational hearing on the issue of online or internet gambling. That hearing is obviously the result of an opinion by the Justice Department issued late in last year. Unfortunately, since that decision was issued, there has been widespread misinformation and misrepresentation on the issue of internet and online gambling. Sadly, much of that misinformation has come from the governor's office and Governor Malloy himself. As an immediate response to the Department of Justice decision, and in many subsequent statements since, the governor has said things like, internet gambling is coming to Connecticut, period. The internet is the internet. You don't turn off the internet at any state's borders. It's an impossibility. And that the nature of the decision, quoting the governor, the decision is if it's allowed in any state, it will appear in any state. Unfortunately, Governor Malloy's understanding of the Justice Department decision and the state of Connecticut's ability to regulate online gambling is fundamentally flawed and just wrong. Online gambling is currently illegal in the state of Connecticut, and there are various federal laws that also prohibit interstate online gambling. The Justice Department decision does not change either existing law in Connecticut or existing federal law. The bottom line is internet gambling is illegal in the state of Connecticut, and the Justice Department decision does not change that fact. Internet gambling is not coming to Connecticut. Now, what did the Justice Department do? The Justice Department answered a response from the states of New York and Illinois asking whether or not, since they had lotteries within their states, they could provide lottery ticket sales online within the states of New York and Illinois. The Justice Department decision interpreting the Federal Wire Act said yes and limited its decision to only intra-state gambling where states already allow gambling. And let me read you what the Justice Department Assistant U.S. Attorney General Ronald Weiss said in a letter to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, December 23, 2011. He said that the opinion, quote, provides much needed clarity to those state governments that would like to permit wholly in-state, non-sports internet gambling, including internet lotteries. He went on to emphasize that should states choose not to authorize internet gambling, which Connecticut has already chosen not to do, Attorney Weiss affirmed that the federal government stands ready, willing, and able to prosecute businesses that offer internet gambling in such a state. So the very department that issued the decision has recognized publicly that that decision does not allow for internet gambling throughout the country. It is not inevitable. Second, Connecticut statute, Connecticut law already prohibits internet gambling. Section 53-278B makes it a Class A misdemeanor for a business to transmit gambling information by phone, radio, or any other means, including the internet. It also makes it a Class B misdemeanor for an individual to engage in that gambling. So, for example, one of the things I saw in news reports is at the Finance Committee meeting the other day, a state representative took out his iPad to demonstrate how internet gambling is here and it's easy to access. And I'll make note that he did not participate on the internet gambling site. Having that internet company, regardless of where they're located, whether it's Antigua or anywhere else in the country or world, disseminate that information and cite to a Connecticut resident is illegal under Connecticut and federal law. And had that individual actually participated on that site, would have committed a Class B misdemeanor under Connecticut law, and I assume that's why he didn't do it. So I don't want to make any mischaracterizations during that. So that Connecticut law is good law and does not change given the Department of Justice decision. Connecticut is not alone in making internet gambling illegal. We are behind some other states in enforcing that issue, but we're not alone. New York and Washington State have recently had their state Supreme Courts rule that their laws prohibiting internet gambling withstand any challenges from off-site internet gambling sites. Many of you are familiar with some of the cases regarding the online poker sites. PokerStars.net, I think, is one of them. In both instances, the state Supreme Courts, consistent with Connecticut State Supreme Court law, has ruled that it is the state's primary ability and responsibility to regulate their own laws regarding health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, and that those state laws prohibiting online gambling are preeminent, and they still exist. In fact, if you'll note, and I have, hopefully you've all gotten a copy of a legal opinion I've issued, and we have, I didn't make copies for everybody, but supporting documentation for everything that we've done in there. Let me just read to you what the New York court said in its decision. It said specifically, and I'll quote, "It is irrelevant that internet gambling is legal in Antigua," and for some reason, unbeknownst to me, that's where most of these offshore sites are. "The act of entering the bet and transmitting the information from New York via the internet is adequate to constitute gambling activity within the state of New York." Not only, and obviously the court then rejected the argument that we're in Antigua, we're using the internet, the internet's the internet, it's everywhere all over the world, you can't get us in New York. The court said, absolutely not, we can get you in New York. And the court, in making that decision, said not only would such an approach, the approach of saying, since I'm far away using the internet, you can't get me, not only would such an approach severely undermine the state's deep-rooted policy against unauthorized gambling, it would also immunize from liability anyone who engages in any activity over the internet which is otherwise illegal in the state. So if you think about the argument that since it's the internet is the internet, as the governor's often quoted, and you can't stop the internet at your borders, if that's the case, that anyone, anywhere in the world could engage in illegal activity and they'd be immunized from being prosecuted because they used the internet, that would be silly. It's illogical and factually wrong. In fact, there are other areas of our law where we say transmitting things over the internet, regardless of where you are from, are illegal. One of the most heinous examples, obviously, is child pornography. It's available on the internet, but it's illegal. We would never say the internet is the internet, and since it's available and you can't stop it from coming into your computer screen, that we might as well just make it legal. So New York, Washington, and I think we will see other states who have opposed gambling within those states have had their Supreme Courts affirm their state law superiority over any claims by online gambling sites. Lastly, with respect to federal law, there are two federal laws which are still enforceable and unchanged because of the Justice Department decision. One is the Illegal Gambling Business Act. That is the act that lets the federal government prosecute businesses that engage in online gambling activity in states where that activity is illegal. So if there's a business, regardless of where they are located, who solicits people in Connecticut to engage in online gambling, that business has violated federal law and the Illegal Gambling Business Act. There's also the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act. That was passed in Congress, I think, in 2006. And the result of that law is that banks and credit card companies are prohibited from allowing online transactions for gambling. And most major banks and major credit card companies have done just that. The technology is easy, and they've developed it to prevent someone from using your credit card or your bank account in Connecticut to gamble online with an internet site. Now, you might be saying, well, people are already doing that, so how is it happening? And how can you go after these guys who are in Antigua when they don't even live in the United States? Well, in the Southern District of New York, currently there are 11 individuals being prosecuted under these federal laws. None of those individuals live in New York. One is the president of a bank in Nevada. What the prosecutors in the Justice Department have found is that since most major banks and credit cards are in compliance with the federal law. These internet sites have actually, and this is the allegation in New York, bribed smaller local or regional banks to violate the federal law to allow that money laundering to happen with the internet sites. Let me also point out that where those states, Washington and New York, have upheld their state laws prohibiting internet gambling, the same state law we have here in Connecticut, the internet gambling sites have left. Let me repeat that, because again, the idea was the internet is the internet, and you can't stop it at your borders. Where state laws have been upheld to make gambling illegal, and where there is the threat of prosecution of people who don't even live in that state, those internet sites have picked up and left and do not go after individuals in those states. So if we enforce our laws here in Connecticut, and I will be calling upon all law enforcement, from the state's attorney's office to the U.S. attorney's office, to enforce the existing laws we have here in Connecticut, and this session I will also be introducing legislation to increase the penalties that we have under our existing laws. It is clear that these internet sites pick up and leave. Last point, and I think it speaks specifically to, well, what are we going to do here in Connecticut? Because at one point, Governor Malloy was asked, well, what's your plan? Are you thinking about working with the two casinos on making this happen? And he said, that's exactly what I'm thinking. It can't happen. It can't happen. We have a compact with the two tribal sovereign nations. That compact gives them the right to do gambling within the state of Connecticut. If we were to open up that compact and give them the sole right to engage in online gambling in the state of Connecticut, we have clearly violated the Federal Commerce Clause. Many courts have indicated that, and it would be a violation. Therefore, we cannot do that. The other option would be to let everybody do it in the state of Connecticut. That would be the wrong public policy, the wrong direction for the state to go down. If someone is trying to protect those two casinos, and more importantly, the revenue it brings to the state of Connecticut, that would go a long way towards damaging it. If there is interest in this legislature to protect the casinos and, more importantly, the revenue they have, obviously there is nothing we can do about the proliferation of casinos in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and other states. But there is something we can do in here in Connecticut. That is to continue to make online internet gambling illegal, to strengthen the penalties for those laws, and to engage in legitimate enforcement. That will prohibit people from gambling online in the state of Connecticut, and if people choose to gamble, their one avenue within the state of Connecticut will be to go to those casinos, which at the end of the day, I believe will help strengthen them, not weaken them. So with that, I'll take any questions you guys might have.